Well, folks, you're in for a treat when you hear that tune. It's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. I've got the best freaking job in the world hanging out here talking poker with my friends on the Rec Poker Podcast. My name's Jim Reid. I'm Bluff Sterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. We're going to do a special edition of the show tonight talking about the mixed game of the month. So that's RAZZ. So stay tuned to get all sorts of details about how to play RAZZ. First, I have to mention that we're brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker Podcast. And most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we really depend on the support of our sponsors and our premium members who pay $15 a month to get involved in our training material and study sessions and social activities and that kind of stuff. If you want to get your first month of Rec Poker Premium, you can get it for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. It's only $15 a month afterwards, so I think it's kind of a bargain, but you can always just sign up for free by going to Rec Poker and joining our free community. All it takes is an email address and a smile, but we do insist on both. Now, you get used to hearing my voice on the show, but I am just one man, one part of the wrecking crew, the crew of wizards that make all the magic happen here at Rec Poker. If you want to find out more about me or the rest of the wrecking crew, you can head on over to rec.poker/crew or just listen up because you can meet a few of them here on the show, starting with our home game director, the one and only, the irreplaceable, the man himself, John Somsky.
I'm John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek Minute, and I have a little bit to do with the home games.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And then join us for the book study on the first and third Wednesdays of every month.
I'm Taylor Moss. You can find me on Twitter at Taylor_Moss or as Gopher Boy, TJM in the Rec Poker home game, which I stream live on Twitch Wednesday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central at twitch.tv/recpoker.
And speaking of the home games, playing for free in our Play Money Home Game Club is just one of the perks of being a free community member here at Rec Poker. We're doing a real emphasis on mixed games this year. So every month we're playing a different mixed game of the month in our Player of the Year race. So that tournament is on the second Wednesday of every month. But to help practice, because I know a lot of you audience members here at Rec Poker are no limit hold'em players, we're trying to make it easy to dip a toe into some mixed games. So we play a practice mixed game of the next month's featured game on the third, fourth, and fifth Wednesdays of the month. So if I've done my math right, this episode's coming out on Tuesday, and tomorrow night should be the first mixed game, the first practice mixed game for RAZZ. In the home game club, and there'll be another one next week before we play for real on the second Wednesday of next month. So John Somsky, you've put this whole fantastic slate of mixed games together that we're playing month by month. We're finally up to RAZZ. I've heard this is a fun game to play. I don't know anything about it. Fill me in. Let our audience know how we can become master RAZZ players.
So this is a game that was started by a bunch of complainers. They were always whining about how they never made a hand and they always had the worst hand every time they played. So they decided to reverse it and said that the lowest hand wins rather than the best possible hand. At least that's the way the legend goes. I wasn't there. I don't know if it's actually what happened, but that's what they say. This is another stud format game. So it has 5 betting rounds. You're dealt 2 cards down, 1 card up for 3rd Street. You get 1 more up card, 4th Street. At the end, you're going to have 4 up cards. 7th Street is dealt face down, so you have 4 up, 3 down for your hands. You play your best possible 5 cards. The best possible hand is ace, deuce, 3, 4, 5. You don't need to worry about suits. You don't need to worry about straights. They don't count against you for RAZZ. And this game is the first 2 betting rounds use the small bet, last 3 the big bet. So exactly the same as stud 8 or better. The only difference is now we're just playing low. So instead of playing a split pot game where high wins half and low wins the other half, low wins it all. The other difference between this and stud 8 or better, because only low wins the hand, there is no qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible that a pair could be the lowest possible hand. Unlikely, but possible. So a pair could win it. It could be that you have a king high win the low. It just really depends. It's whatever the lowest possible hand is, that's what's going to take it down. It's also the game that I find you can read the board the best. There have been a number of times by the time you're hitting 4th Street, or I'm sorry, 6th Street, you have someone board locked. It is not possible for them to have a better hand than you. And you can really take advantage of that because so much of your hand is hidden. You can really just pound them and they'll think you can tell they have a great hand. They may be drawing to a 7, but you have a 6 and they can't have a 6. So you've got them right then and there. So it's one of my favorite hands, and it varies from person. Some people don't like low ball games. I happen to like them a lot. But because of the fact that you can really read the board, and there's a lot of bluffing, because if you are dealt the lowest hand, so if you're particularly in a tournament and you're getting short-handed, and you see an up card of a queen, a jack, and then like a 7, and you have an ace showing to go along with your king and queen that are down.
Yeah.
You bet,
Right.
because it's likely that the king and queens are not even going to bother to stick around. So you're only playing against that 7. And if you draw pure on 4th Street and they brick, it's a good chance you're just going to take it down right there. So you have to be willing to read. You play your up cards when you're bluffing against someone else's up cards, and because they have more information about your hand, your bluffs are a lot more believable because it really looks like that's what you've got, versus hold'em, where they have the same shown cards as you do, but having separate boards that are shown makes a huge difference for this game.
I love that. I love that. Rob?
One of the things you missed, John, was the bring in. The bring in is now the highest card on the board. And then the leading bets after the 3rd Street betting is the lowest hand on the board leads the next round of betting. So it's opposite of the 7 card high low, or any 7 card, any more normal 7 card games. So just a little, yeah. And one of the things that I think about when I'm getting involved in these, and I love RAZZ. I'm with John. I played RAZZ years ago when it was first available online, and I just loved it because the opportunity to bluff was there were so many opportunities just to represent a hand that you really don't have. You could, like he said, you could have a king queen down below, but if you have a 2, 3, 5 showing and they've got a 7, 8, 9, you're just like, jam it in. They could have the lowest hand, but they have no clue because you've got the board locked. And I love that aspect of RAZZ. I think it's one of the funnest games I've ever played.
And John was
Yeah.
saying he wasn't around when RAZZ was invented, but he sort of figured it was made by a bunch of complainers. Rob was around at that time.
Yeah, and I
can
was
speak to
probably
that.
one of those
He
complainers.
was in the room. Yeah.
It's kind of like
Later.
in deuce to 7, I get a lot of 3 aces. I don't know what happened. Can't get it in 5 card draw, but yeah. Okay, never mind.
Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, Rob's kind of talking about this, and it's a game where I feel like some people have this perception of no limit hold'em that's like, I was a pre-flop aggressor. I should continue to bet, and like I should have the lead, and like I should be taking this because of like the actions that I took previously. And RAZZ is kind of the game where that's like actually true, and it's a lot based off of like the up cards and things like that. Like we're talking about these examples where it's like I've got an ace up, but I've got bad cards behind. It really is like it doesn't matter what's behind. Like the up cards, we're playing against each other, and it's like I've got an ace, which is the best possible card to have in RAZZ, and you've got a 7, and it's like, do you really want to play this odds game that I'm bluffing in this situation? Because all the other situations where I've got a deuce and a 3 below, I'm gonna keep hammering the betting. So it's like, I've got this ace up, I should continue to hammer the betting, and I'm going to. And then my next card that comes up, as long as it's not like a king or a queen, and it, it fits the bill. If it's a 5, it's a 6, it's a deuce, it's a 3. Even if I have a deuce and a 3 behind, it fits my bill. I'm gonna keep betting. I'm gonna keep taking this lead, and I'm gonna keep taking this action. So it's really kind of that, like, you have this perception of no limit hold'em, like have the lead, keep betting, and like keep going through things. And it's like RAZZ, that is very much true. As long as the board doesn't flip against you and out of your favor, you have all the opportunities to just keep betting and keep going after different types of things, because you will get situations like John mentioned earlier. You have your opponent locked out of the hand. Like, you have the winning hand on 6th Street, and it's like you're going to bet in those situations. But there'll be other situations where you potentially have a pair behind, and you don't have them locked out, but you'll still want to be continuing the betting, because in those situations where you potentially have someone locked out of the hand, that means your board is way better than theirs, and you bet your board sometimes. So it is a very fun game in terms of like paying attention to those different dynamics and making sure you're taking advantage of it when your board does show that you have the advantage.
And so does it matter as a player, like how bluffy your opponent is in spots like this? Like if you're playing with someone a lot, let's say you're playing with 2 players at the table, and one of them just never bluffs and the other one bluffs more often. Is it as straightforward as just continuing more often against the player that's bluffier? Is there a way, like, pick your spots better or something? Because I can imagine
to your
it makes
opponent,
you
that's
like
for sure.
less predictable, right? Like if you're bluffing the right amount, you're going to get paid for your value hands too, just like a lot of other poker games.
Right. Like, it's pay attention to your opponent, because say you have this situation of like ace deuce 3, and then the next card that comes is a 3. You paired. Sometimes your opponents, when they see the pair, they instinctively go, I paired. This is, I essentially got dealt a napkin because this doesn't help me at all. And then they start checking. And it's important to pay attention to that, because it's like, if this didn't hit you, you're betting the 3 100% of the time. But now all of a sudden you checked, oh, maybe that 3 wasn't as good for you. And maybe you do have a pair beneath. And then maybe my 7 that I had previously now is looking a little bit more appealing. So you do have to pay attention to those different types of opponents that you're against and how they're going to behave in situations.
Yeah, and also look at other things. So if an opponent continues to 4th Street with like a king or a queen showing, that probably means they have some really good low cards. So when an ace comes on 4th Street, that's not as good for them as it would be for most other opponents, because the likelihood that they have an ace down is much higher because they continued with such a poor card on 3rd Street.
I love that. Some great tips here, gang. Anything else you want to throw at our audience before we hand this group off to our fantastic guests? We've got some great guests lined up. You're going to hear from them right now, sharing some other fantastic tips on how you can call RAZZ on Robbie too. Don't be afraid.
I do have just one last thing before we go to the experts. And that is, really pay attention to the boards. If, for example, if you're dealt ace deuce 3, and then you pair, and your 3 happens to be up, and you pair on 4th Street, but the person that you went against had a 9 up, and now they get a 7 on 3rd Street, or let's say a king. Let's say they get a king on 4th Street rather.
Yeah.
Well, that king and your paired 3 are basically the same card.
Good point.
So you are still a favorite in the hand, and in that particular case, you can still continue to drive the action. You do need to be a little bit more careful and start to slow down. If you can have 4 cards to rock and low and then pair your hand the whole way out, and end
Yeah.
up with nothing too.
That's a good point. But I think what I'm hearing though is that you sort of part of the game is just recognizing which cards are not going to be in the low or not going to be in the made hand that you're worried about beating, and they kind of have a similar rank to each other of just
Yep.
not counting. I like that.
In the stud games, you want to put a lot more effort into inferring your opponent's hand
Mm-hmm.
than, or you probably want to put effort in all of the games, but you can get a lot more information. It's a lot easier to infer what your opponent might have in stud games.
Right on. Well, thanks, gang. Let's hear what some fantastic poker players, pros, and celebrities have to say about their version of how to get the most out of this fantastic mixed game we call RAZZ. All right, Chad McVean, give us some tips on how to play RAZZ.
Well, if you're playing RAZZ, then hopefully you've got Robbie at the table because he hates this game. Actually, he doesn't. He loves it. Again, it is another one of those. It's a low hand. You want to get your worst hand. The thing with RAZZ is it's the only game you truly can tell if you have the nuts. When the board runs out, you know you've got your 3 cards underneath, and if they are all low, you know what your low card is. You can see your opponent's cards. Just look at the 3rd lowest card on that's showing. That is the best possible hand that they can have. If you can beat that, go ahead. If you can't, it's going to take some reading of your opponent. But again, like stud 8 or better and stud, there are 5 rounds of betting, so it can be a costly game.
All right, Chris Fox Wallace, give me a tip on how to play RAZZ.
You'll probably learn when you start learning about RAZZ about how board locks work, right? There are times when you can look at the board, give your opponent their 2 best possible cards, and you're still winning. And also there can be times when, like on 6th Street, you can look and give them their best possible cards and also let them have their best possible card on 7th Street, and you're still winning, right? An uncrackable board lock. That's amazing. But there are also times, a friend of mine wrote a really good article about this years ago, and I've always remembered it. There are times, as he called it, the 5th Street equity play, where you're behind if the hand ended right now, but you're actually ahead. It's like having an open-ended straight flush draw in holdem against like a pair. And if you've got a really great draw and he's 2 cards behind if you hit, then you're great. So if you have 6-5-4-3 and your opponent is showing like a 9-8, he may have a made 9-8, whereas you've got 6-5-4-3 king, and you're still a favorite, and you can be raising there. If you have multiple opponents, you may not want to raise. Remember the bet timing thing. That's so important. You may just want to keep everybody in because you got to make a monster to win anyway. You're gonna beat everybody if you make your hand.
Okay, Mike Patrick, give me a tip on how to play RAZZ.
All right. RAZZ is a game where you want to make the lowest hand possible with lots and lots and lots of low cards. So the best thing you can do is start your hand with lots and lots of low cards. If you're in there speculative in early or middle position and you've got like anything like a 9 or higher, you're getting yourself in a lot of trouble. Because bottom line is you need to make 5 low cards in this hand, and as soon as you handcuff yourself by starting with 2 low cards instead of 3 low cards, you're just making it way harder on yourself in later streets because you still are going to be a card behind no matter what situation you're in. In later position, you can get a little frisky, but you're doing it to steal. You can get in there if you're in late position. If you do have a banana in the hole, you can still get in there and raise and mix it up. But do not be limping and getting in there multi-way with a bad card in your hand, because you're just going to be in so much trouble, and you just have to get so incredibly lucky to run out 3 good cards instead of 2. It's just way more easy on yourself. It just makes decisions in later streets way more easy if you start with 3 good cards instead of 2. Just unless you're really planning on stealing in late position and you're going to play the hand aggressively, don't be in there with a banana.
All right, Norman, Chad, give me some tips on how to play RAZZ.
Jack Binion from Binion's fame was once asked the average age of a RAZZ player, and his answer was deceased. RAZZ players tend to trend old. Okay. So, but the good news there is people don't understand is that when you play RAZZ or a mixed game, they're old because mixed game players live longer. We do live longer. So of course everyone's going to be old. So RAZZ again is simple. Best 5, worst 5 cards low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter if you have a flush. It doesn't matter if you have a straight. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, starting hands are everything, and you have to keep track of the rest of the cards on the board. So you don't want to be, you're not going to start with, 2, 6, 9. You want to generally start with 3 very low cards, hopefully to a wheel. But depending on the board, like 2, 5, 7 can be a starting hand if everything else on the board up is 8 or above. So you have to be aware of the other cards that are out. You want other cards out low that would be the same cards you have. So that reduces the chances that you're going to get paired up there. That takes those cards out of the deck. So you just got to start with low hands. It's very disciplined. There are chances to bluff. Your 4 up cards can look really good, and you can have bad stuff back here. Your front yard can be beautiful, and your backyard can be full of weeds, and you can get away with that. But so the idea again is to just play tight generally in RAZZ, and don't get real fancy until you figure out the game.
All right, Robbie Strazynski, give me some advice on how to play RAZZ.
So in RAZZ, the only information people know is what you're showing. And that is very, very important information. They have no idea what your whole cards are. You could be holding a pair of kings down low, but if your board shows 2, 3, 5, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's an incredible hand. Project strength, make them scared to call you. So look at what they have and how that looks compared to what you have up exclusively without factoring in the face cards. And I think play the hand that way and see what happens.
All right, Shannon Van Den Berg, give me some tips on how to play RAZZ.
I had a few tips for RAZZ. You can look for some bluff opportunities here, especially in the initial betting on Third Street. If it folds to you and you're showing a baby card and the person with the bring in has got a face card of a king, queen, jack, a lot of the time you can complete there regardless of your holdings, and you can take it down. Sometimes they'll get a little sticky and decide that they want to come along. If they do that, they may have something like ace, deuce, ace 3, ace 4, because if they're showing a king, queen, or jack, they kind of should have those kind of hands as their down cards. It's a one-way game and suits don't matter. So everyone is looking for the same cards. So it's vital to keep track of what's been folded. You need to know what were those third streets that got folded out. My simple strategy for stud, RAZZ, and stud 8. I'll only fold on the odd streets, but I'll call on the even streets. So if I'm good enough to play my hand on third, then I'm calling. When fourth comes, well, it's only going to cost me 1 bet anyway, so I'm probably going to see fifth. But if fifth doesn't improve me enough as well, then I'm going to be out of the hand. So if you play against me, you know that's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, that was another fun conversation about mixed games. My thanks to, of course, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino for their support over the years. To John Somsky and the other members of our Wrecking Crew panel here talking about their love of mixed games. And all our fantastic guests who contributed their segments, their thoughts and tips and advice on how to get the most out of some different mixed games that we're going to be playing. So I'd encourage you, head on over to rec.poker, sign up for a free account there. You can go to rec.poker/home game and find out all about the different mixed games that are being played throughout the year, a different one every month. And I would encourage our listeners, if you're a no limit hold'em player, dip a toe into some of the mixed games. You'll be surprised how much fun you can have. So without further ado, I'll just say thanks for joining us for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. And I hope I get to see you all again next week or sometime real soon. Good luck on the felt, folks. Thanks again. Bye for now.